BT's Body and Balance is sponsored by Canada Diagnostic Centres, offering MRI, X-ray, and ultrasound services in Calgary and Okotoks.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is one of the most common mental health disorders in childhood. This is according to StatsCan. It affects about 5% of school-aged children, yet we still have so much to learn about this. Health specialist Leah Sarich is here now with the latest.
I know, so exciting.
Do tell.
Right? So we have such amazing research underway here at the University of Calgary. I mean, I say this all the time, but this is really exciting. So I spoke with a neuropsychologist. Her name is Deborah Dewey. She's really at the forefront of changing the way we think about a lot of these disorders. And of course, she really wants to change public policy and make a difference, which is why we talked to her. So the latest finding is when it comes to ADHD, for example, it is more common that ADHD actually occurs with something else than just on its own. So what happens is these children who have ADHD, it's more common than not that a child doesn't just have ADHD, but that they have ADHD and another type of disorder.
The chance of a child with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, their likelihood of them having a motor disorder, like developmental coordination disorder, is 50%. A child with ADHD is also at a high rate of having learning problems, a reading disorder, 30 to 40%. Similarly, they may be they're much higher rate of having a depression or other mental health disorders. So there's this high rate of co-occurrence of these neurodevelopmental disorders and mental health disorders that is much higher than one would expect by chance.
Yeah, so they call this co-occurrence. So this is in fact the norm and not the exception. So that's one big finding. But of course this raises all kinds of questions then once this comes up, right? So why is this happening? The latest research is also suggesting that it's not necessarily just genetic either. Dr. Dewey said, for example, Deborah has looked at all kinds of families with several kids in them, each with something different. So one child will have ADHD, one child will have ADHD and depression, one child will have ADHD and one of these motor disorders. So this is happening in one family. So that suggests that it's not just genetics alone that's at play here. And the new research is suggesting this co-occurrence may have to do with what's happening in infants' brains before they're even born. So way, way back. So it may have to do with two things. Neurotoxicants, so these are things that moms are exposed to while they're pregnant. And then of course what these women are eating while they're pregnant. The idea is basically that babies' brains are affected by many factors.
Genetics is one of those, but they could also be affected by what moms eat. If moms have different types of infections, inflammation during their pregnancy, that may affect how the children's brains develop. Also, the environment that we live in. So those are some of the factors that we're starting to look at. What are other factors that impact children's brains that may tell us or give us some idea of why some kids develop neurodevelopmental disorders and others don't?
That's the big question. Why some and why not the others, right? So of course, clearly more research needs to be done in this area, but the two sort of areas they're already starting to look at with early research has to do with examples of nutrition. So eating lots of omega-3s and eggs, for example, might be good for mom to be eating while she's pregnant. The other thing they're looking at, of course, are those neurotoxicants. So these are things like bisphenol A, or BPA as we know of, and those phthalates, because they're just ubiquitous. They are everywhere in our culture. And you'll recall when BPA was taken out of baby bottles a few years ago, that was a great step forward, but this new research is suggesting that actually it has to do more with what's happening before the babies are even born. So we need another public policy shift on this. So that's very exciting research, and if you want to learn more about it, the great thing is that Deborah's actually doing a talk tomorrow night at the Alberta Children's Hospital from 6 until 7 p.m. She'll be there, she'll be outlining all of this research, and she'll be taking your questions as well.
Wow, incredible insight. And more on your blog.
More on my blog, you bet.
Health specialist Leah Sarich, breakfasttelevision.ca is the way to find her. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.